There exists a secret pattern that permeates life, the universe, and everything in it. It's one that remained a mystery for thousands of years, until one day some of the world's most creative geniuses cracked the code and revealed that pattern to the world. The truth of its profundity is evident to the millions who have since witnessed its glory.
You are a toy!
Toy Story, Pixar's first full-length feature, may look like a children's film, but underneath the slapstick humor and cute jokes, it identifies a narrative that cuts to the core of all of human history. Here's the Mensch Sense take. Toy Story and other Pixar favorites follow a careful structure that guides their storylines. This structure was articulated beautifully by Emma Coates, Pixar's in-house story artist, in a tweet she wrote in 2011 as part of a larger series called 22 Rules of Storytelling. It reads as follows: "Once upon a time, there was blank. Every day, blank. One day, blank. Because of that, blank. Because of that, blank. Until finally, blank." Like the Pixar films themselves, it sounds laughably simple, and yet it is surprisingly deep. Coates outlines three basic parts to the story structure. Part 1 represents a harmonious world, one that is safe and predictable. In Toy Story, Andy loves playing with Woody, T-Rex, and all of his other toys in a happy world of make-believe. Part 2, however, is when everything changes. A new element introduces chaos into the otherwise balanced universe, and that's when conflict, change, and ultimately growth take place. Andy gets Buzz Lightyear. Now the hierarchy of toys undergoes upheaval, and jealousy leads to a conflict between Woody and Buzz that takes them both on a journey in space, as well as in character development, and forces them ultimately to confront their own flaws. In Part 3, we see the fruits of their growth. True teamwork leads to a new and better equilibrium. The world is once again harmonious and safe, but now with the added benefit of more enlightened characters. Woody and Buzz are now both Andy's favorite toys, and the world of make-believe is even richer than before. What the Pixar model suggests is that every good story follows this pattern. Things begin in harmony, fall into chaos, and re-emerge in a more beautiful state of harmony. You could easily track this onto a number of Pixar hits: Monsters, Inc., Up, Cars, and so on. But this pattern has far greater implications than just children's movies. The Jewish tradition describes this pattern as the ultimate trajectory of human history. Once upon a time, humans lived in glorious harmony with nature and their surroundings. That's known as the Garden of Eden. Until one day, human hubris caused them to fall into chaos and destruction amongst each other and with their environment. And although we are still caught in that phase of disorder, we continue to long for the day when all of our efforts over the millennia will result in reestablishing world peace and a transcendent reality for everyone. It's an incredibly optimistic and hopeful narrative which affirms that what was once lost can be reclaimed. Now, while you've probably heard that story before, you may not have known that we remind ourselves of this story every year on an auspicious day called Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year. On the day that marks the rebirth of the world, we take that narrative and distill it into its purest form. Can you guess where in the service it's mentioned? It sounds something like this. The shofar blast sounded on Rosh Hashanah follows precisely the pattern we've described. The first note is smooth, implying the original harmony of the universe. The middle note is broken up, indicating the chaos of the current state of the world. The last note returns to a smooth sound, the hope that in the future we will return to that harmony. When the shofar blasts in the synagogue, those who listen carefully for this pattern can feel its truth being etched into our hearts. Every Rosh Hashanah, we observe a shattered society around us and wonder if there's any chance that this year things can be different. We are reminded by this threefold pattern that the original state of humanity was not nasty, brutish, and short. It was a simple but blissful state, and thus the quest for a messianic era is not a vain attempt to create something that never existed, but rather an attainable goal of putting the pieces back together of a picture that once was. We live at a time where our current generation is more pessimistic about the future than any generation in recent history. In the face of despair, we can turn to the beautiful simplicity of a shofar blast, or even an animated film about talking toys, to remind us that human redemption might be possible after all. And that makes mensch sense.